We now go to the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Gottheimer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hi, Director. While I know that you don't have direct oversight over tolling, you do have oversight over financial institutions, particularly with regard to revenue from exorbitant fees charged to consumers. It has come to my attention that some financial institutions are providing favorable credit terms to New York's Metropolitan Transportation Authority, the MTA, based on enormous and outrageous fees, including a new $23 a day congestion tax just to drive into New York City that will be paid by hardworking families, particularly my constituents in New Jersey. And you're a Jersey guy, so you know about these issues I'm talking about. We're talking about charging nurses, cops, and firefighters, labor, restaurant workers, and other hardworking families $23 a day just to drive into New York City. You understand consumer fairness perhaps better than anyone else in this room. Are you concerned at all that these banks will be making money off of gouging middle-class Americans with exorbitant tolls from their new congestion tax? And will you commit to investigating the revenue that financial institutions are making from this congestion tax?
I actually have not heard this. I'm from outside Philadelphia, but I know my uncle worked for the New York MTA for a long time, but I will look into this and get back to you.
I really appreciate it if you do that. I'd be very grateful, and I'll follow up with you. I'm working with Representative Cartwright on legislation that would require the 6% interest rate cap for loans made to active duty service members to apply to all applicable accounts held by the service member at a particular financial institution. This is an issue I've been following closely, and I know the CFPB released a credit card market report last month that found that many credit card companies are not proactively checking service members' military status to ensure that they receive the benefits they've earned in return for their sacrifices and service to our great nation. What needs to be done to make sure that more credit card companies are proactively checking?
This is a very good point, by the way. With higher interest rates, you have actually a lot more people, including on their mortgage, where the Service Member Civil Relief Act protection is going to kick in. We released some analysis about the low levels of take-up for National Guard and Reserve who were activated. You know, our Service Member Affairs Office and I put out some recommendations on what institutions can do to make sure that they're covering everyone. You know, it is voluntary. We know some are doing it, but I do think there's some good questions about whether it should be required to simply make it go through the process rather than having the service member deal with every single notice.
Right, putting it on
that
them,
process.
right.
And there is a database. So we can get back to you with some further details on that, but it's a good, worthwhile idea.
Yeah, I would really like to follow up with you on that as well. That would be great. And Director, this committee, as you might know, has recently discussed earned wages access, known as EWA, products which offer individuals the ability to draw money from their paychecks before payday. Several states, such as Maryland and Connecticut, have classified EWA products as credit products. Other states like Nevada and Missouri do not recognize EWA providers as lenders. Director, does the CFPB view EWA products as forms of credit? And if so, does the Bureau have plans to treat this product on a level playing field with other credit products, including by requiring the providers to disclose the cost of credit?
Yeah, so, you know, earned wage, EWA is often a branding term. It can be an earned wage cash advance. It's a cash advance. Sometimes it's through the employer, sometimes it's not. You know, the CFPB a few years ago did issue some guidance that was pretty narrow. It essentially involved free earned wage advance. So we know the market has developed a lot. Of course, you know, federal law still applies no matter, you know, there's federal and state law. We live with federalism. We are looking, as I mentioned to your colleague, to updating the guidance given all the evolution in the marketplace.
Thank you so much. It's critical that we classify, in my opinion, and govern these products appropriately. I'd like to shift gears quickly to open banking. One of the most prominent consumer protections is protecting consumers from fraud, as you'd agree. And as you know, fraudsters' practices are evolving constantly, and the industry needs to be able to continue to innovate to be more effective in curbing bad actors. I'm concerned the open banking rule as written will hinder critical industry efforts to fight fraud by prohibiting the use of consumer data to develop or improve fraud identification products. Can you please clarify how the proposal permits the development and improvement of anti-fraud tools?
Well, you know, I think what you're referring to is there's limitations on secondary uses of the data. In other words, that's really to prevent fraud. We don't want someone baiting a consumer to hand over their data and say, I'm going to give you an auto loan, when in reality they're using it for all sorts of other purposes. So really the goal is to protect the consumer, to reduce bad actors. I think there are some questions in the notice of proposed rulemaking about how data can be used. We're collecting comment on that. But of course, we do want to make sure that fraud is reduced. Congressman Foster raised the issue of identity verification. There's really a lot to work on this front.
Thank you. I yield back.